Welcome to another Rooster Talk session. I've got George Bauk here from Northern Minerals. George is the man to go to for rare earths, in my opinion. So George, maybe just give a quick intro. I think most of the guys that have already seen a couple of your videos, so they sort of know where you are, but just give us your opinion on where the rare earth market is and how you guys are managing through this interesting times.
Yeah, look, no worries at all. It is interesting times. We're starting to get some feedback out of China that they're in recovery mode and businesses are reopening and they're working through restarting their economy, if you like. And at the moment, that's important for us to follow that, because that's where the rare earth industry is right now, as it's all centrally processed, especially from a heavy rare earth perspective through China. People would have seen from a Northern Minerals perspective, we announced the sale of some of our product over the last couple of months. So obviously there's a market alive and well, people buying our mixed rare earth carbonate. What hasn't changed has been the attention and focus of the Critical Minerals Facilitation Office in Australia and the efforts in the US to look at diversified supply chains. So, you know, if there's anything that we've probably observed more so over the last couple of months through this COVID-19 pandemic has been making sure that we don't rely on any one region, economy, company for a supply chain, if you like. It's so critical to have diversity, as we've seen the challenges of what's happened recently. So the efforts of the Australian and US governments in particular haven't faded, if you like. There's no question that a lot of attention is focused on dealing with the challenges that people are facing during this time, both from a health and economic perspective. But the government is also encouraging people to make sure that they have a restart plan, if you like. So there's still a lot of attention around rare earths. I mean, it fuels and powers technology. I mean, one of the things we're seeing lately come through is, you know, rare earths go into medical applications and equipment and so forth. So we do focus on the permanent magnets that go into the electric vehicles and the wind turbines and so forth. But, you know, there are applications that use rare earths in the medical space.
It's interesting. One of the interests I have with Northern Minerals is that you guys are actually producing and selling products. You know, granted, it's not like in a massive commercial scale, but you're actually producing. And also, do you think that now with all the issues we have with logistics in trying to get products out from here and there, that a kind of a form of nationalism may come into in terms of, like, you know, like you said, the critical minerals, like rare earths and tungsten and the likes of that. Do you think that it's that the countries would try and develop their own resource a bit more, and rather than have this globalization of get it from the cheapest source? Do you think that could be something in the new world order?
Yeah, look, I think the comment you made at the end about you know, not looking for the cheapest source. I think you know, there's times in your life where you get so hell bent and focused, and next minute you're sort of not seeing what outcomes are a result of that behaviour. So, for example, you know, cheapest, that allows companies that really have the advantage of economies of scale and all the rest of it. So we saw the benefits of a lot of Asian countries, in particular China, with the ability to produce things at a cheaper price, be it labour or whatever other efficiencies they've got. I think there's a pause at the moment that people are saying we've got to stop and make sure that it's not about cheapest. In terms of nationalistic, we're always going to have books that can't be balanced. I mean, you know, for Australia to become more self-sufficient, it's going to be really complex because we're just too small a nation, and I think we're going to be common with others, if you like. But I think as a whole, people are going to make sure that we're not going to have reliance. And that's, again, this is by no means a central focus, you know, all about China, but it's about the world looking at supply chains saying we just can't rely on a single source. We've got to make sure that there's a diversity. So I think in particular, anyone that's got potential supply chains that could diversify away from China is a good thing, generally speaking. And again, it's not anti-China. It's just if you do have these pandemics, you want to make sure that you have alternative supply chains and all the rest of it. So, you know, a lot of people talk about rare earths and say, well, if anything, it might heighten and accelerate the concerns that have come out of this pandemic, is to have alternative supply chains.
Oh, I think so. I think you're right. I mean, it's not, just so happened that this one occurred out of China, but the next one could be out of somewhere else. And if your logistic just happens to be affected by it greatly, then you're going to have a problem. And I've had this conversation with a few people over the week that I think Australia is looking like we're going to get out of this quite luckily, quite well or sooner. But I can't see our gates, international gates, opening in the near future. So working within the country, I think it's going to be sooner than later. I'm not so sure about going overseas and having people coming in through the international gates till we know that there's a cure or vaccine or there's some certainty in transmission, right? So my point being is, do you think companies like yourself, where your projects in Australia, that you feel there's some advantage being here as opposed to being overseas?
Oh, look, I mean, at the moment we're blessed in terms of our entire operation is based at Browns Range. I mean, it's not good for us at the minute because we're in care and maintenance. You asked earlier about, how are we coping with it? Look, our operation is in the Kimberley, and the Kimberley has been shut down through biosecurity, the Biosecurity Act, which is a Commonwealth Act, and obviously people are very wanting to make sure that Indigenous communities and some of the remote communities of the Kimberley are protected through these points because of different levels of health in different areas. We want to make sure we protect people and not have bad outbreaks, if you like. So we made a decision as Northern Minerals that it was sensible for us, given how remote we were, given that the bans were going to get tighter and tougher. Our facilities aren't the same level as some other companies, or definitely within capital cities, that we thought it was in our best interest for our people and for the company that we went into care and maintenance, and we did that quite quickly. We were developing our own internal plans of what would happen if, and I suppose when we really saw that there was going to be some significant changes happening within travel restrictions in WA, we thought it was in our best interest that we went into care and maintenance as quick and as efficient as possible. Again, with the Biosecurity Acts, we've had to go through a few more rigorous processes to even fly in and out our people out of Perth to get to our site because of the extra scrutiny around people commuting around the Kimberley, if you like. So there's even borders within the Kimberley, within shires, if you like. So, look, there's going to be a lot of great lessons out of this. I mean, I think we've got to put everything in perspective. Northern Minerals, it was only yesterday that from a head office perspective, we started working from home. So that's only 3 weeks ago we started that. So some people feel like it was a long time ago.
It feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, and look, I suppose, you've got to focus on, for us, it's been about, making sure that we've got the interests of our people at first hand. We got people off site, was an important bit. We're working through, we were all waiting today about the JobKeeper legislation that's coming through today from federal government. So that's going to provide companies a lot of guidance about what does that mean and how's that going to affect people. And then as we get through that, we then can start focusing on recovery, if you like. Okay, where's our business at the moment? What's our time frame we're talking about? And how do we recover from this current situation, if you like? And it's through those periods of time that we'll be able to assess markets, probably dive into, what the real impact is, where's the real pressure points. I think there's a lot of positive to come out of it. I think rare earths will be in a reasonable position following all of this, if you like. I mean, there's going to be a natural slowdown of some of our demand curves on, end products and so forth. I think it will take a little bit of time for the world to recover from this situation, if you like. As we, how long will it take? I don't know. I think it's just good business practice to think of it in 6 months, if you like. I mean, that's what, the federal government's talking about. So, if you just have that as a mindset, if we get asked to sort of restart earlier, let's make sure we get our plans that we can restart if that comes. But I think trying to say, let's check in a month and a month and a month, I think just gets everyone anxious and anxiety levels up. So it's good to just stop, pause, reset the business and get ready to go at the right time, if you like. So that's our approach. I think a lot of people are probably going to reassess risk management and their frameworks about, when we do scenarios of all this bad stuff happens, and everyone usually says, well, that ain't going to happen. Well, I think we've now all going to live and tick a box saying we have lived through one of those oh shit experiences.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that question is because I've had conversations. I deal with a lot of guys from Southeast Asia and a lot of these family funds, and they've been looking at, where should I go, what should I invest in, and they like production plays and things like that, and so that's why we've been talking about, what could this mean, that the restart would happen more faster in a place like Australia. Hence, investment in production play or near production play is safer, smarter, whatever word you want to use, than maybe outside of that square, because we don't know what's happening really outside. From my point of view.
Look, the safer bit's interesting. I mean, I suppose being an island, we've probably been able to control the movement of people, if you like, by managing it from ships coming in and planes, if you like. So we've been able to put good control measures in place to be able to sort of minimise the disease coming into the country, if you like. I mean, it's really important that we watch and see where we're at. I mean, I think we shouldn't get excited. I mean, people show the graphs of 1918 when if you go and restart, society again as the way we once had it, if you go too early, you might have an outbreak bigger than the one that we've just sort of seemed to have slowed down, if you like. So it's important for us to be patient. It's really important to make sure that we're on top of this. And, like you said, I think early on that, there is talk about this, the need for cures, for medication to be able to, deal with it in the future, if you like. So we're going to be in this risky situation of being in it today, stop the further spread of it. But you're not going to really be confident about this disease until you have a cure, and one that you can actually address the problem with people with medication, if you like. So, depending on how quick our the experts in the field around the world can come up with vaccinations, and that is going to be a real critical bit to how we slowly step back to the way we knew the world in the past, if you like. But, it's about taking sensible approaches and, having supply chains that are simple, that are in places that you can work through, will naturally make it easier, if you like. But, our businesses aren't generally that simple, because we'll have parts coming from overseas. And so you're always going to have an interactive global business, if you like, once you get to a certain size, because some reagents will come from overseas. There's just going to be, interactions that we've got to understand. How's that country going that's supplying us that particular reagent or whatever the consumable is?
Yeah, I think that's the issue with globalization, I guess. Good and bad, and at times like this, your logistic could get held that back by a small group of parts that you're waiting for. But I think, I think anyway, if you had to do with a project in, say, Australia now, looking forward, I think it's a lot easier to manage from a CMD role than say if you were somewhere in Asia or somewhere else.
Well, look, managing a project that's in your own backyard's the easiest. If you're a West Australian, you live in Western Australia, projects in Western Australia, happy days. If the same can be said if your project's in some other part of the world and that's your nationality, you live there and all that. I think local is always a lot easier, if you like. There's a lot of benefits of being in that sort of scenario. But it'll make everyone stop and rethink their business, and they relook at risks. We talked about, if you go back in some of the previous discussions we've had, we deliberately put our hydromet plant next to our beneficiation plant so we could manage the whole radioactive measures cradle to grave on site. So, that was one topic we were very conscious of. And so, now people probably go back and say, okay, let's have a look at our supply chains. Let's have a look at where we get that element from, And again, we went to these things where we were all educated and taught about cheaper, get costs down cheaper. Well, that may not be the case in the future, because some people might say, well, we might have to, increase our cost of X because we should try to source it locally so we don't have an issue in the future of supply risk, etc. So I think a lot of people will be revisiting, their business and having a look at what their reliance is on, and if they can't rely on that, if everyone's going for cheap, have we destroyed a business or an industry in our local country that could have been better to have there, but maybe cost us 1%, 5%, 10% more? So I think it's going to make people stop and rethink and just have a look at their business slightly differently.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in everything's every day we wake up, there's something new and different, and I think in terms of a business plan, it will change as time, and we're all, majority of companies or businesses are in shock once they get out of that, and they'll start. A lot of them are innovating already. They're in fact, some of these guys might go forward being more efficient in some ways, I think, in how they do things.
Look, it's really interesting when you have a look at. I only go back in the last 12, 24 months, and you start having the conversation in head offices where people just go, "Oh, I'd like to work from home. It's easier for me. It's this," and the amount of this is going to be an issue. That's going to be an issue. Connectivity and all that. We didn't have a choice right now.
Yeah,
everyone. The amount of people that went, right, don't go to work. Like, set the platforms up, and everyone worked from home. And guess what? Just got to think a bit differently. You've got to now use different platforms to actually communicate and all that. In some places, I reckon we're communicating more than we potentially did when we sat next to someone in a head office because you were too busy. We just got to, we've been given a challenge, and it's really interesting how many people have taken that challenge on as quick as we have. And as I said, this is the end of week 3 for me and at home. And, adapted my office at home to make sure it's got all the functionality it needs to have. We've changed the way in which we interact. I mean, our executive team, we interact every day now. We didn't as a team get together every day for various reasons. And all of a sudden, you've had a new challenge, and it's about how people adapt, if you like. So I think, once people, for us, we'll sit back and rethink our business model at site. And I think some interesting stuff's going to come up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's all this is going to create different ideas because you have to, and the way you do this could actually end up to be cheaper and better in some format. I mean, when I first spoke to you, I didn't quite get the revs. I didn't even realize you guys are producing to a certain degree. You're a lot more advanced than I first anticipated. But yeah, it's good to catch up. George, thanks for giving me your time. I don't want to take any more of your time. I know you had back-to-back meetings this morning, but always good to have a chat, George.
No worries. And I like all the Roosters because I was born in the year of the Roosters. So have a great afternoon. Oh,
that's good, mate. That's where the Roosters are from.
No worries.
All right. Thanks, George.
See ya.